Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. When the human said, "You attacked our home," Commander Nex'Vaal stood on the observation deck of the Kaltharian flagship Eternal Dominance, his forearms clasped behind his back as he gazed at the blue-green orb suspended in the void. Earth, such a deceptively beautiful world for one that harbored such problematic life forms. Magnificent, isn't it? Captain Ixis said, approaching from behind. Her scaled skin shimmered under the ambient lighting, the command insignia on her uniform catching the starlight. Nex'Vaal snorted. If by magnificent you mean extraordinarily frustrating, then yes, absolutely magnificent. Laura clicked her mandibles in what passed for amusement among their species. Come now, Commander. The High Council specifically selected you for this mission because of your diplomatic expertise. Don't tell me a primitive species has you this, what's that human expression? Riled up. Primitive. Nex'Vaal's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary pair remained fixed on Earth. 3 orbital defense platforms destroyed, 17 scout ships disabled, our primary communication relay hacked and broadcasting what the humans call, never going to give you up on all frequencies. He turned to face Laura. And you still classify them as primitive? Technically speaking, they haven't even achieved proper interstellar travel, Laura replied with a dismissive wave of her upper right appendage. And yet, Nex'Vaal gestured toward the view screen where a damaged Kaltharian cruiser limped into formation. They've managed to bloody our nose quite effectively. Do you know what Admiral Steron said to me this morning? He said, I'm beginning to think we should have sent the diplomats before the invasion fleet. Can you believe that? The ship's AI chimed in. Commander, we've received the latest casualty reports. Would you like me to? No, Nex'Vaal snapped. I would not like you to do anything except perhaps recalculate how a species that still uses combustion engines in some of their vehicles managed to disable our phase shield technology. The ship trembled slightly as something impacted against their defenses. What was that? Laura asked, steadying herself against the console. Nex'Vaal sighed, all 4 of his hands rubbing his temple ridges simultaneously. That would be another primitive human missile. They've been launching them every 4-3 rotation cycles, like clockwork. Completely ineffective against our current shields, but annoyingly persistent. Like their species, Laura observed. Precisely like their species. Nex'Vaal turned back to the viewport. The blue planet rotated slowly beneath them, clouds swirling across continents, oceans gleaming in the light of their yellow star. So peaceful from up here. So deceptive. You know what's most infuriating? Nex'Vaal continued, not waiting for a response. They're laughing at us. In between desperate last stands and surprisingly effective counterattacks, they're making jokes. Our translation matrix has been working overtime parsing their communications. Do you know what they call our flagship? The Big Purple Pimple. It doesn't even translate properly in our language. Ixis suppressed what might have been a chuckle. Perhaps that's why the High Council thinks you're perfect for this assignment. You understand their humor. I understand nothing about them, Nex'Vaal admitted, his voice lowering. And that's the problem. We thought this would be a standard acquisition operation, identify resource world, neutralize any resistance, establish extraction colonies. But these humans. He shook his head. They don't surrender, they don't negotiate, they just keep fighting. And worse, they keep adapting. The commander's personal communicator buzzed. Sir, came the voice of Lieutenant Drex, the human prisoners have been secured in the holding bay, ready for your inspection. Nex'Vaal closed his eyes briefly. Very well. Inform them I'll be down shortly. As the communication ended, Laura gave him a questioning look. You're not actually going to speak with them personally, are you? That's highly irregular. This entire situation is highly irregular, Nex'Vaal replied, straightening his uniform. Perhaps it's time we tried something equally irregular. Besides, he paused at the doorway, a grim smile spreading across his face. I want to look into the eyes of a creature that calls a warship a pimple while fighting for its very survival. With that, he strode from the observation deck, wondering what new frustrations awaited him below. Nex'Vaal's mind drifted back to that fateful day as he rode the gravity lift down to the detention level. 62 rotations ago, the day everything went sideways. "Commander, we've detected anomalous signals from the third planet," Science Officer Trell had reported, her excitement evident in the rapid clicking of her secondary mandibles. "They appear to be deliberately directed toward the outer system. Crude radio waves, but unmistakably artificial." It should have been a moment of celebration. After cataloging 17 uninhabited systems, they'd finally found sentient life. The Kaltharian expansion fleet hadn't encountered a new species in over 3 centuries. "Excellent work, Trell," Nex'Vaal had replied. "Prepare the standard first contact package. Let's introduce ourselves properly." Captain Brextor, Laura's predecessor, had immediately objected. "With all due respect, Commander, preliminary scans indicate vast mineral deposits across the planet. The High Council's directive was clear: resource acquisition takes priority over cultural exchange." "But protocol dictates," Nex'Vaal had begun. "Protocol is a luxury," Brextor interrupted. "We're 12 light cycles behind schedule and 3 extraction quotas short. The Council won't care about protocol if we return empty-handed again." Nex'Vaal clenched his fists at the memory. He should have insisted, should have followed procedure. Instead, he'd authorized a limited resource assessment of an uninhabited continent. "It's just a small harvesting team with minimal security. What could possibly go wrong? They're shooting at us." The panic transmission had come less than 1 planetary rotation later. "Indigenous forces have surrounded the harvesting site. They have primitive projectile weapons, but by the void, they're everywhere." The subsequent rescue mission only escalated the situation. The humans had tracked the rescue ships back to the main fleet, somehow bypassing their cloaking technology. Within days, Earth's primitive militaries had unified against the alien threat, as they called it. 3 planetary rotations later, Captain Brextor's personal shuttle exploded while returning from a reconnaissance mission. Analysis showed it had been hit by nothing more sophisticated than a chemically propelled missile, technology the Kaltharians had abandoned millennia ago. Who knew primitives could be so dangerous? Trell had remarked during the memorial service. Her attempt at humor fell flat among the stunned crew. The gravity lift reached the detention level, jarring Nex'Vaal back to the present. Lieutenant Drex stood waiting, data pad in hand. "Status report," Nex'Vaal demanded, pushing away the memories. "We've captured 7 humans from their orbital defense station," Drex replied. 6 military personnel and 1 civilian. The civilian claims to be a diplomat, whatever that means. Nex'Vaal blinked in surprise. "They sent a diplomat? Now? After we've been fighting for 62 rotations?" "Yes, sir." Drex hesitated. "Speak freely, Lieutenant. The human keeps demanding to know why we attacked their home, as if we're the aggressors here. Can you believe the audacity?" Nex'Vaal's 4 hands clenched simultaneously. "Actually, I'm beginning to think I can believe anything when it comes to humans. Let's hear what this diplomat has to say. Perhaps we can finally make sense of this mess." The lieutenant nodded and led the way toward the detention cells, the weight of Nex'Vaal's poor decisions weighing heavily on his shoulders with each step. The detention block hummed with an unusual energy. Kaltharian guards stood at high alert, their postures betraying a mixture of curiosity and unease. 6 holding cells lined the corridor, 5 containing individual humans in various military uniforms. The 6th, larger and more heavily guarded, held 2 humans, 1 in military dress and 1 in what appeared to be civilian attire. "We've separated them as you requested," Commander, Lieutenant Drex explained as they walked, though I must say, they've been surprisingly cooperative. Cooperative? Nex'Vaal raised an eye ridge. That doesn't align with our previous encounters. Drex nodded. Precisely my concern. The military ones sit quietly, watching, but the civilian keeps asking questions. They calls them pourbiet questions, about everything, our ship design, our biology, our language translation systems. It's unnerving. They approached the first cell. Inside, a human female with cropped dark hair sat cross-legged on the floor. Despite her predicament, she appeared remarkably calm. This one's been cataloging our security measures, Drex whispered. Watch patterns, door mechanisms, even the nutrition dispensers. She thinks we don't notice. The human looked up, making direct eye contact with Nex'Vaal. Her lips curled into what his cultural database identified as a smile, though there was nothing friendly about it. Nice ship you got here, she said casually. Bit drafty, though. Do all your prisoners get complimentary hypothermia, or are we special? Nex'Vaal ignored her, moving to the next cell. This one contained a large male with dark skin and an impressive collection of scars. He stood at perfect attention, as if on parade. Colonel James Harrison, United Earth Defense Force, serial number 47291A, he stated flatly. Yes, you've been repeating that for hours, Drex sighed. We don't care about your identification codes. Colonel James Harrison, United Earth Defense Force, serial number 47291A, the man repeated, his gaze fixed on some invisible point beyond them. Military protocol, Nex'Vaal explained. Fascinating how consistent it is across species. The next 3 cells contained equally stoic military personnel, 2 males and 1 female, all maintaining the same rigid discipline. Each recited their name, rank, and number without prompting. And the diplomat? Nex'Vaal asked as they approached the final cell. Drex hesitated. That's Ambassador Elena Reyes, with her assistant, technical specialist Maxwell Chen. She's the problematic one. The cell door slid open to reveal a middle-aged human female with silver-streaked black hair and piercing eyes that immediately locked onto Nex'Vaal's primary visual organs. Beside her sat a younger male with what appeared to be some kind of modified neural implant visible behind his ear. Finally! Ambassador Reyes exclaimed, standing up with surprising energy. Someone with actual authority. Commander, what was it? Nex'Vaal. Excellent. Now we can start discussing terms for your immediate withdrawal from Earth space. Maxwell Chen suppressed what appeared to be a laugh, disguising it as a cough. Nex'Vaal blinked all 4 eyes in succession, a Kaltharian expression of disbelief. You are prisoners aboard our flagship, and you wish to dictate terms. Well, someone has to be the adult in the room, Reyes replied without missing a beat. And since you're the ones who barged into our solar system and started helping yourselves to our resources without so much as a hello, I figured it might as well be me. Nex'Vaal turned to Drex. I want to interrogate this one personally. Prepare the questioning chamber. As they turned to leave, Reyes called after them. Just so you know, Commander, your translation matrix has a phonetic error in the 3rd quadrant algorithm. That's why you keep referring to our planet as dirt instead of Earth. The door slid shut behind them, but not before Nex'Vaal heard Maxwell Chen's distinct laughter echoing through the cell. The questioning chamber was designed to intimidate. Stark lighting from above, a single chair positioned in the center of the room, environmental controls set to produce a slight but persistent discomfort for most carbon-based life forms. The walls could shift colors subtly, proven to disrupt cognitive processes in 87% of known sentient species. None of it seemed to bother Ambassador Elena Reyes in the slightest. Is this supposed to be scary? She asked, glancing around the room with apparent amusement. Because my dentist's waiting room is more intimidating. At least he has those fish tanks with the really aggressive-looking fish. What do you call those? Oh right, piranhas. Nex'Vaal sat across from her, a data pad on the table between them. Ambassador Reyes, I assure you, we can make this experience significantly more unpleasant. Oh, I'm sure you can, she replied cheerfully. Just like we could make your orbital experience more unpleasant by detonating those 12 nuclear devices currently attached to your engine subsystems. Nex'Vaal froze. You're bluffing. Am I? Reyes raised an eyebrow. Maybe I am. Maybe your security is absolutely impenetrable. Maybe humans didn't develop stealth technology specifically to deal with you after your first attack. Maybe those aren't our submarine-launched delivery vehicles that have been shadowing your fleet for the past week. Maybe, just maybe, I'm making all this up. She leaned forward. Want to roll those dice, Commander? The door slid open and Science Officer Trell hurried in, mandibles clicking frantically. She leaned down to whisper in Nex'Vaal's ear. Confirmed? You're absolutely certain? Nex'Vaal asked, his voice betraying his shock. Trell nodded vigorously. Something wrong with your ship, Commander? Reyes asked, her smile never wavering. Nex'Vaal composed himself. Ambassador Reyes, let's be clear. You are in no position to make threats. Your primitive weapons successfully destroyed 3 of your orbital platforms and disabled 17 scout ships, she interrupted. Yes, we've been keeping score too. Oh, and don't forget your communication relay that's still broadcasting Rick Astley. That was Maxwell's idea. Brilliant, right? Nex'Vaal struggled to maintain his composure. Why are you here, Ambassador? What do you hope to accomplish as our prisoner? Reyes sighed dramatically. I'm not your prisoner, Commander. I'm your way out. Out of what, exactly? The colossal mistake you made when you attacked our home. Her voice suddenly lost all humor, becoming cold and precise. Let me explain something about humans that your preliminary research obviously missed. We're territorial. Fiercely territorial. You didn't just take resources from our planet. You violated our home. It was an uninhabited continent, Nex'Vaal protested. Antarctica belongs to Earth. Earth belongs to humanity. Your harvesting machines were carving up our ice caps, disrupting ecosystems we've spent decades trying to stabilize. Reyes slammed her palm on the table. You attacked our home without provocation. We meant no. Let me finish, she cut him off sharply. When a human says, you attacked our home, it's not just a statement of fact. It's a declaration of war, a promise that we will not rest until you understand exactly how terrible your decision was. She leaned back, suddenly calm again. But it doesn't have to be that way. Nex'Vaal studied her, genuinely puzzled by the rapid shifts in her demeanor. What are you proposing? A conversation. A real one, between equals. Reyes gestured to the room around them. Not this theatrical interrogation nonsense. I volunteered to be captured because diplomatic channels weren't working. Sometimes you need to get face to face, or whatever you call those fascinating eye arrangements you have, to make progress. Before Nex'Vaal could respond, the ship's alarm began blaring. Red emergency lights pulsed along the walls. Right on schedule, Reyes muttered, glancing at a small device on her wrist that Nex'Vaal had assumed was merely decorative. What have you done? Nex'Vaal demanded, rising from his seat. Reyes smiled enigmatically. Created an opportunity for a more balanced negotiation. Now, shall we discuss those withdrawal terms? The ship's alarms continued blaring as Nex'Vaal received urgent reports through his neural implant. His secondary eyes narrowed while his primary pair remained fixed on Ambassador Reyes. Your military companions have escaped their cells, he stated flatly. Somehow they've disabled our security protocols and armed themselves with Kaltharian weapons. Reyes shrugged. Colonel Harrison was Special Forces before joining the Space Command. Lieutenant Rodriguez was our top security systems analyst. And Specialist Patel. She can hack anything with a power source. Did you really think those restraints would hold them? A loud explosion rumbled through the ship. The lights flickered momentarily. That would be Dr. Chen accessing your engine room, Reyes explained casually. The neural implant behind his ear. It's not medical. It's a quantum interface, lets him communicate with machines. Quite handy. Nex'Vaal slammed all 4 fists on the table simultaneously. This is not how diplomatic negotiations are conducted. And harvesting resources from an inhabited planet without permission is? Reyes shot back.